How are you this wonderful evening? It's chilly out there. I'm Father Maurice Emelu. I'm a priest of the Catholic Diocese of Olu in eastern part of Nigeria. The same diocese Father Benson comes from. I teach at Archangel University in the Team Research Department of Communication. I'm the founder of Gracia Vobis Ministries, that a global Catholic ministry for cross-cultural Catholic evangelization and works of charity. And the host of EWTN programs, The Faith with Father Maurice and Word for a Wounded World. I am delighted to be in your community today, to be part of this wonderful community. But before I give my message, I want to thank Father Jay and Deacon Mark for giving me the honor to share the faith with all of us. I remember the other time I was in California to give a retreat in a beautiful church, but not as beautiful as this one. To give a retreat on, I think that retreat was on something on journeying with God or something like that. And the first day of the retreat, after the first day of the retreat, one of the families invited me over, say, "Hey, Father, we want to take you out for dinner. We want to thank you for something." I said, "Wow, the first day, that's nice. I'm all out. Who does not want free dinner?" So we're in this fancy restaurant, and as we're enjoying the meal, they say, "Let's be clear, we wanted you to know precisely why we took you out for dinner." I said, "Okay. We have this grandma responsibility of taking care of our grandkids. Our daughter was supposed to be at work during the time of your retreat, and we did not want to miss your retreat. And if we sat at home babysitting, we would miss the retreat. We decided, let's bring the kids to the retreat." About 4 kids. And we sat right in front of the pews. "Did you recognize us?" I said, yeah, I recognize the 4 kids. "We are grateful to you because for the 4 to 5 minutes you talked, our kids were sleeping all through. Thank you for making babysitting easy for us." I was wondering, what was I talking about that would make kids sleep for 4 to 5 minutes? That would tell you how boring that speech must have been. I hope to share with your community something that can make kids sleep well from tomorrow. But before we talk about it, let's talk about the message of today. I call that message a long-lasting relationship. I can see many of you may have been married for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, for those who are extremely strong. But I'm talking about a relationship that is timeless. It's a relationship with God. And as I was listening to the reading of today, the first reading from the book of Genesis, talking about the covenant God made with Abraham and the incredible experience of the transfiguration in the Gospel of Luke, I was thinking, what does it look like for parents to watch their kids and long for their family to continue their tradition? How does it feel like to realize that I'm a farmer, but there is a likelihood that if I die, they will sell the whole farm because they are not going to work it anymore. Or we have this tradition of coming to Mass every Sunday. That maybe that tradition may go away. Or we have this tradition of eating like the old Irish, eating the family dinner every Sunday, and it's going to go away. Basically, how do we continue the mentorship that will grow from one generation to another generation, that in the grave we'll be looking up and saying, yep, that's my boy, that's my girl. So I was thinking of that. And perhaps maybe because it dawned on me that when my dad was dying, my dad passed last week. May God rest his soul. It dawned on me why my dad was calling a particular child his favorite. Not to us, of course. The priest is always the favorite. But behind the priest, I will use our native language, Uche Daddy. That's what he calls the son. And it's even the fourth child, the fourth son and the seventh child. Uche Daddy means, is the name of the child is Uche. Daddy, of course, means the child that is in the daddy's heart. Why? Because this child, Uche, was always by my father, listening. Listening. Even when my dad says what doesn't make sense, Uche is listening. Listening. And my dad saw in that child the one who could continue the history and the tradition of the family. Listening. That's the aspiration of every parent, to see that something continues even after they are passed. And I want to tell us, God's invitation to us was not an invitation to end one time. It's a long-lasting invitation of constant listening. That listening is deep, because the listening, theologically speaking, is not just about auditory listening. It is faith. I don't know if you are aware, if you go to the Catechism of the Church, when they were giving a description of faith, they said that the root word of faith is from the same root word of obedience, which means ab audire. What does it mean? To listen. We read from the first reading, it talks about Abraham was made righteous because he put his confidence in God. He listened to God, and that was good enough for God. Just like listening to the father, to the mom, is good enough to give them the confidence that the tradition can go on. Faith comes through hearing, listening. Jesus stands at that Mount of Transfiguration, and the apostle Peter, James, and John hear that word, my beloved son, listen to him. That listening is encountering the thing that melts our heart in love, transforms us, that we can continue this cherished tradition from generation to generation. That's why from time to time we have opportunities like this to come back once again to listen. I know it is hard, especially with social media now. It is hard. All of us want to talk. I want to talk all the time. I want to talk to my students, talk to my brothers and sisters, talk to my friends. Listen. I want to be the first to scroll through that social media and to tweet that. Kids, you remember? This is a time to pause and detox from that noise and come back to your community here and say, hey, God, what have you got to say? That's my job. My job is not to talk. My job is to join you to ask God, what have you got to say? It just takes only 2 days, and after we can go back and chat. But let's give it 2 days. So the first day tomorrow will be about listening to God's encounter through diversity. Encountering God in and through diversity. Well, please, don't be distracted by the noise of diversity you hear on the news. Please, that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what God says about diversity. Talking about diversity, Father Jay and Deacon Mark and Father Benson, tell him without prejudice to all three of you. I was at the sacristy trying to figure out the chasuble I will wear for my mass, and I realized all the chasubles are 6 feet tall. How is that diversity if you don't have accommodation for short people like us? I'm kidding. The first day is on encountering Christ in and through diversity, 7 p.m. here. We expose the Blessed Sacrament after I've given that my own boring talk for 30 minutes or 45 minutes. We expose the Blessed Sacrament. I have a workbook. I call it an inventory that will help us individually go through the questionnaire. It's a personal spiritual inventory. You have this inventory with the Lord. And then I will be there at the confessional. Where is the confessional? There at the confessional, just to sit and hear and just let you pour it to God. I promise you, I'll be there for as long as the last person stays. Even if it is midnight, I don't care. That's why you paid me to come, by the way. So I have to sit there. And then on Monday, in the morning, we'll do the morning mass. There are some people who don't want to drive at night, especially freezing weather of Canton. I will have another session by 9 a.m., which will end by 10:30 because I have a meeting at John Carroll by 12. And then I'll come back for the evening session. The evening session is on encountering God through justice, social justice. Again, it's not the noise in the news about social justice. It is about what God says about justice. And then after that, we will hang out. I will also sit back to hear you, to listen to your confessions as long as I can. I understand the parish prepared some coffee or something to eat after that, because it's good after the listening to eat good, something good. We will have that.